Funding for Indian Pride is provided by the Seminole Tribe of Florida, the Forest County Potawatomi Tribe, National City, the Otto Bremer Foundation, and the members of Prairie Public.
On this episode of Indian Pride, Indian education takes center stage for Indian country. Learn a lesson from the deer and the coyote, and hear a soulful song and a favorite tune from a timeless trumpet player. Hi, I'm Junie K. Randall, and welcome to Indian Pride. Indian education has several definitions in Indian country, from the roots of our ancestors, oral history, and living examples of everyday teachers who have been blessed to share the lessons and wisdom of our families. Indian Pride shares the history of education and the positive impact and imprint it currently has in Indian country.
I think my biggest dream is for them to become educated and to be able to compete in the larger society, to become doctors, to become lawyers, engineers. That would be my dream for the tribal members, for them to be able to give something back to the community, being educated.
Johnson and our other little gal.
Push it, take it.
I have found it very interesting when I started teaching that all the kids are very much interested and very ambitious to learn the language, and they get so involved into it that I can't keep up with them. I've done some curricula myself, and we're going to use all the dialects and teach the kids all the dialects. The elders will be involved in the manner of being there. We'll have them come over to the classrooms and actually do that. And at the same time, while we have them, we can tape them at that time. And then hopefully we can recreate the tape into a book.
Dene College is one institution, multi-site across the Navajo Nation. As the oldest and foremost tribal college in the country, we are a leader in Indian country in terms of higher education. One of our mandates is to offer our own people to be able to learn and read and write their own language. Dene College is founded by Navajos for Navajos. So that's why I feel really proud to work for the college here, because you look at all the challenges the young students have that are facing, not only here at Dene College, but all over the country. And a lot of young people, and also the families that they come from, they have no roots to what it means to live as a rural Navajo. We're here to help our young people not only become self-aware of who they are, their history of where we come from and how we came about to the southwestern area of the United States, and also why it's very important to retain language, to retain tradition. It's okay to wear your Michael Air Jordans, but it's also important to also know the language and where it comes from.
When I grew up, my mother was a school teacher. It caused me to get very much involved in education. I was in that era where they didn't want to tell us the Indian stories anymore because there had been a lot of efforts to take away the native knowledge. So I got involved and wanted to be a teacher. We had a 2-year tribal college here on the reservation, and I started to pursue my education off the reservation. And then they got a teacher training program, and I wanted to come back and be a teacher. The importance of education has everything to do with economics. I always said that if everyone on the reservation could have at least a 2-year degree, our economic situation should improve drastically. People in our community did not feel that college was something for them. And I wanted it to be a common word in every house on the reservation, so that when people said, "What are you going to do after high school?" they'd say, "I'm going to college." And it wasn't a foreign word, but a common word.
Led by outstanding American Indian educators and dedicated tribal leaders, educational opportunities for American Indians have moved significantly forward over the past 25 years. Over 30 years, our guest today, Dr. David Gipp, has been a nationally recognized leader of equal and quality education for American Indian students. Dr. Gipp is the president of United Tribes Technical College in Bismarck, North Dakota. He is a Hunkpapa and enrolled member of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe of North Dakota. It's a pleasure to welcome to Indian Pride my dear friend and mentor, Dr. David Gipp.
Wonderful to be here, and really do appreciate the invitation to talk about these issues.
Well, let's begin, and could you give us a little bit of history on Indian education and define really what is Indian education, Dave?
Well, I think if you went back, 100 years, 200 years, or 1,000 years ago, I think what you'd find is that Indian education was all of those kinds of things that were relevant to our clan style, our tribal nations, and that we had a very complicated set of methods of teaching within our family systems, listening certainly to our elders and to our adults who taught us all kinds of things. And you have to remember we had great diversity and still do have great diversity among all of our tribal nations, so that there were different methods that were used. I mean, you're talking about certainly the North American tribes themselves and the great cities and villages that they had, 150, 250, 500 years ago. You're talking about math and science that were employed by the Mayans and the Incas, as well as some of our North American tribes in constructing their villages and cities. So there was a lot of kinds of different types of learning, and much of it was based upon the family as well as spirituality, by the way, when we talk about Indian education. And today I think that is much of what we're trying to restore, along with the so-called 3 R's.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think was the most significant part of our education early on that has kept Indian Nation strong?
I think our culture has been very, very critical to why we are still here. We haven't amalgamated, if you will, and just become a group of brown people or melded into the rest of the population. I think our culture, our language, our heritage, our ties to the land and the water and all of those significant things when we talk about Mother Earth and Father Sky and all of these kinds of concepts that are so critical to our well-being. And I think that has been one of the mainstays. So really when you look at it, it goes back to our families. And I always look at our American Indian family of having really been under attack for over 500 years because others have been trying to change us and not recognizing the fact that we have great values and we have wonderful ways of teaching.
When you think back to the time when you first got into education, which, by the way, you have significantly impacted everybody in Indian country with all of your great work, what do you recall as the formal education history story?
Well, as far as, we'll just say the Western style of education, we know that from the time that Columbus found the shores of North America or the Americas, we know that European culture has been very interested in trying to change who we are and apply their views of what education is all about. And so we've had to live with those kinds of circumstances. I myself went through the boarding school system as well as having attended public and private and even parochial schools in my boyhood. So I've had a range of experiences in both public, private, and boarding school systems, the old Indian boarding school system, by the way. And so I have, I guess, a bit of knowledge and direct experience when we talk about what it was to grow up in that system. Nowadays, boarding schools, for the most part, are not popular. We've begun to return a lot more of our effort back home. And the things that I've stood for over the years is very simple. Control of our own education and our own destiny. That's what I think Native people want and are trying to do for themselves, regardless of whether our children attend public schools or attend a tribal school itself. And so establishing those kinds of things has been a large part of my 35-year career.
So what are some of the significant milestones or progress that we've made in trying to take control of our own educational system?
Well, I think one of the things we did, and again I go back to the first Europeans, the Spanish, the English, who helped and set up school systems that were to convert many of our native people, oftentimes to a Christian belief, by the way. But also Harvard, which, for example, was founded on the premise that it would educate and is included in its charter, a charter commitment to Native Americans.
Right.
And they are only now really beginning to address that issue, by the way. So we have all of this range of education to the taking of Colonel Pratt's view of taking the Indian out of the village and putting him or her into the school system, cutting the hair in the 19th century, who created the so-called first federal Indian education definition of taking the Indian out of the man and putting civilization supposedly into the Indian. We've gone beyond that concept to the 60s and 70s when a great movement began in terms of this control issue of Indians saying, hey, we want really the American pie and education that everyone else has in the rest of the nation. We'd like to control our education. We'd like to be able to develop the curriculum and make sure that the curriculum is relevant to our communities. And we'd like to administer and do those things and teach in our own school systems.
So
that's the effort that's really going on right now.
So we made progress in terms of at least some of the Indian people getting to college. I want to talk to you a little bit briefly about the community colleges that you were so instrumental in helping establish in American, so tell us a little bit about that, Dave.
Well, we started out with 6 tribal colleges back in 1972, led by Navajo Nation, but also the heart of the tribal college movement begins in North Dakota and in South Dakota, and then expands out to Montana and then to many of our other states.
Right.
Today in 2006 and 07, we have 35 different tribal colleges and universities across the nation, serving over 30,000 students, by the way. And that is also true of our tribally controlled elementary and secondary schools that Indian tribes began in the late 60s and up to the current time of developing their own school systems, as well as developing stronger voices with respect to the public school systems.
David, preparing for the 21st century in Indian education, I know there's some great things that United Tribes and other colleges are doing to prepare the young people from Indian country for the future. Could you explain to us a little bit about what you're doing in terms of research at United Tribes and how that's going to impact Indian country, like, for example, in the area of health?
Well, I'll tell you, we're doing a number of things. One of them is food and nutrition, by the way, and we do both a full training course for students there that attend on-site, as well as some online kinds of offerings about food and nutrition. We've done some research about traditional foods. We're studying everything from the various kinds of indigenous berries to buffalo itself, one of the high protein but low fat types of meats, if you will, that many of our tribes relied on years and years ago. So we're working on looking at those kinds of foods that can still be used today by our contemporary families. And so we're doing training in the classroom, training people to use these skills in a commercial as well as a home setting. And the second thing we've done is done what we call the Buffalo Guides, that we've gotten out to many of our cooks and nutritionists in the region here and done training on these as well. And in addition, our research continues to go on with other four-year universities along with ourselves about these types of food styles and foodstuffs, if you will, and how they can be applied and worked very well with these issues of diabetes and heart and disease and those kinds of things.
So as the population is now slowing down, what's happening in Indian country in terms of the population for the young people that we're trying to prepare for in terms of education?
Well, I'll tell you, we have a growing population. I say this in North Dakota and South Dakota and other parts of Indian country. You know, better than 51% of our population are now under the age of 25. And when you start looking at the younger age levels, age 12, 10 to 12 and so forth, you see higher percentages of young Indian people coming up, whether they're living in rural reservation settings or whether they're living in urban areas. We have a growing population. And so the challenge for us from pre-K through, if you will, college and postgraduate is to assure that we have a good quality education for these young people, and B, that we're making sure that they're taking advantage of it fully and can really look at the opportunities for what's going to happen in terms of the future of tribal or Indian America, because this is really where it's all at. This is our future.
David, it's been an honor having you on Indian Pride. You've been an excellent help in furthering our discussion on the topic of Indian education. Thank you very much.
It's been wonderful here. Thanks for the honor, and I'd love to return sometime.
One day, Coyote was walking alone in his daily routine, daily walk. And then he would always hum, have always a sound or a song in his mind. And then this one day, he was walking alone in the forest. She was carrying on this trail. And then he heard somebody from off the distance saying the same old kind of thing, like, humming along. And then Coyote heard that out in the distance. And Coyote stopped, and then he went behind these bushes, and then he was just waiting for that person to come along. Here comes a person. And it was a doe, a real beautiful doe with a family, little fawns, little deers, baby deers. They're walking. He found that these colors were really, really wonderful, and he wanted to. He saw his children in that. They were all spotted, and then in his mind, he'd look at his children, and he jumped out there and then said, "How did you make their children? This one so wonderful, so beautiful." And the deer said, "We just burned them, put them in the fire, and we just put them in there. And after they got all black, but when the fur came back out, and they were wonderful kids. That's how we put those spots on there." Coyote was so fascinated. "Wow," he said, "this is fantastic, you know." So he ran down to his home, grabbed his children, and ran and over there, put a big fire and put his children in there. He killed his children and doing that. So he invented child abuse, child neglect. And he saw them, and then there was nobody came around, and then he thought, what happened to me? What did I do? So, and then he started to seek help. And then these holy people, they kind of like said, they suggested that he had a ceremony. There's a ceremony, yes, healing ceremony. And he went over there and he had these ceremonies, singing. And when they did that, the animals came back to life. And the deer came back to life, and they were happy again. So the moral of that story is, don't imitate anybody. Be your own self. Your children, if they're Indian people, do not try to duplicate another nationality, another tribe, or another group of people that might come around and then try to make your people be like that. So you're special, you're kind, you're wonderful. Keep it like that. If you do that, it's sort of like that's child abuse, that's child neglect. So remember that, they said.
When we go into the musical boundaries of Indian country, you will find a diverse group of talented and gifted performers. Our guest today is a multi-talented performer whose spirit matches both his gift and talent. With pride, I present Ivan Makel, former president of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Tribe, Arizona.
When people talk about hip-hop and reggae and jazz, some of the foundation comes from traditional rhythms in their songs. And our young people don't even know that some of those rhythms came from tribal songs. They didn't just start when people started playing jazz, and they didn't start with just African music or rhythms. They also came from tribal rhythms. And if you see, this is a song that a lot of tribal songs, people try to write them, they try to script them out, and they have a hard time because they have time changes and the rhythms are kind of awkward, But if you can imagine something like this song, see if I can remember it. So I apologize if I don't quite get all the words right, but I was trying to do this from memory. Okay. It goes like this. And this was a traditional song, if you can imagine it being just done with some gourds and voices. And it went something like this. She-woo, 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 she-woo. Always 4 times. She-woo, she-willy-kuma, she-willy-kuma, she-willa, she-woo, she-willy-kuma, she-willy-kuma, she-willa, she-woo, she-willy-kuma, 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 she-willa, she-woo, she-willy-kuma, she-willy-kuma, she-willa, she-mani, tani, 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 le, she-mani, tani, tani, tani. Shimani tani 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 Shimani tani tani She woo She woo She woo She woo She woo she will come she will come she will she will come she will come she will she will come she will come she will she will she will come she will come she will hey.
I'd like to thank all of my special guests today for sharing their gifts and talents with us. And we invite you to join us next time as we present another great showcase of Indian pride. Whenever you get a chance, do something special for a child. Bye-bye for now.
Funding for Indian Pride is provided by the Seminole Tribe of Florida, the Forest County Potawatomi Tribe, National City, the Otto Bremer Foundation, and the members of Prairie Public.